It does not scream, it smiles. It does not burn cities, it holds your hand, nods in agreement, and infects you without a sound. Stupidity, real, weaponized stupidity, is not mere ignorance. It is a virus of the mind, a parasite that rewires consciousness. It turns clarity into fog, thought into reflex, awareness into blind obedience. It wears the mask of confidence, certainty, and truth. You won't recognize it at first glance because it does not dwell in the uneducated. It thrives in professors, doctors, leaders, the very people we trust to guard reason. Individuals who once questioned everything now parrot slogans they cannot explain. This is not hypothetical, it is history repeating. Mind can be vibrant one moment and colonized the next. Picture it. A scientist defends theories they once dismantled. A teacher sows division they once condemned. A parent shares lies that endanger their children. These are not monsters, they are infected. And the true horror, they do not know it. Because weaponized stupidity does not look absurd, it looks normal. It smiles. It speaks the language of the crowd. And when enough minds surrender, civilization rots from within, not in flames, but in the velvet coffin of comfort. This is not happening to them. It is happening to us, to you, to me. What if humanity's greatest threat is not war or hatred, but ordinary people who have stopped thinking? One man witnessed this decay. From a Nazi prison cell awaiting execution, Dietrich Bonhoeffer scrawled a warning on smuggled paper. A prophecy so disturbing it was nearly erased by history. His words claw back from the grave. What if you are already infected? The virus does not kick down doors. It seeps through cracks. You never hear its approach because it arrives in whispers, a fog that thickens until the landscape of your mind feels familiar. Yet nothing within it belongs to you anymore. Imagine a man in his apartment. Same routine, teeth brushed, news scanned, feeds scrolled. But something hums beneath the surface, a dissonance. His thoughts feel scripted, his opinions rehearsed. He nods in conversations not from conviction but from muscle memory. He believes he thinks for himself, yet his cognition has been outsourced, drip by drip, to the hive. This is the invisible coup. No jackboots, no manifestos, just the slow accretion of 1,000 harmless compromises until a person's inner voice becomes an echo of the crowd. How does it begin? Not with stupidity, but with fear. Fear of standing apart, fear of seeming difficult, fear of being wrong. So we conform, not from belief, but from the ache to belong. We chant slogans not because we grasp them, but because they are safe. We perform outrage not because we feel it, but because it is expected. We believe not in truth, but in repetition. Gradually the mind adapts. The brain, engineered for survival, conserves energy. Why wrestle with complexity when certainty is handed to you? Here stupidity takes root, not as idiocy, but as emotional surrender. We mistake stupidity for low intelligence. Bonhoeffer reveals it is far darker, a failure of will, a refusal to engage, a silent pact to never question again. This is functional stupidity, high IQ obedience, polite insanity. The teacher who knows better but stays silent. The executive who smells rot but signs the order. The citizen who feels dissonance but scrolls on. They do not feel foolish, they feel safe. And that is how the infection spreads. Stupidity does not debate, it nods, it smiles, it complies, until an entire room is hollowed out and no one recalls the weight of an original thought. Bonhoeffer was no armchair philosopher. He was a man staring at a noose in a Gestapo cell. No lectures, no libraries, just concrete, silence and the crushing weight of time, time to watch reason crumble. Time to see faith perverted. Time to witness dignity dissolve. Germany, a nation of Goethe, Kant, and Bach, handed its soul to a tyrant. What shocked Bonhoeffer was not the evil, it was the compliance. Bishops blessing hatred, scholars justifying genocide, neighbors betraying neighbors, not from malice, but from atrophical thought. He joined the conspiracy to kill Hitler. He spoke truth. He was jailed, but the physical bars were not what haunted him. It was the prison he saw inside human minds, a spiritual surrender disguised as common sense. In his prison letters, he carved these devastating words: "Against stupidity, we are defenseless. Not evil, stupidity. Evil knows it is vile. Evil hides, lies, wears masks. But stupidity? It believes. It trusts. It obeys, not under duress, but because it has surrendered the capacity to resist." Bonhoeffer feared not the rabid haters, but the quiet assenters. The truly dangerous person is not the one who hates you, it is the one who has ceased to think. In chains, he diagnosed humanity's deepest bondage, mental captivity, spiritual laziness, the murder of curiosity. He wrote not as an academic, but as a prophet howling into darkness, begging future generations to listen. He did not die for politics. He died for the right to think, to doubt, to defy, and his warning now screams louder than ever. The virus evolves. No fever, no rash, just a silent shift, so incremental you vanish before you notice. These are the 5 symptoms of a hijacked mind. The first sign is not rage, but revulsion, a visceral recoil from complexity. You feel it when someone says, "It's not that simple," and your blood boils with impatience. You hear a counter-argument and feel contempt, not curiosity. You no longer seek understanding, you seek victory. Infected minds cannot abide gray. They demand heroes and villains, binary cages where nuance is treason. Why? Because nuance demands labor, and labor is the first casualty of the virus. Stupidity is not low IQ, it is fragility. The infected mind clings to beliefs like a child to a blanket, not for truth, but for stability. You flee challenging conversations, you feel attacked by evidence, you defend instead of dissect. Because the virus has implanted a lie: if I am wrong, I am worthless. And that lie is the infection's lifeblood. It begins subtly. You post an opinion, likes flood in, dopamine surges. You post a more extreme version, more applause. Soon you are not thinking, you are performing. Opinions optimized for approval, morality crowdsourced. Voice reduced to algorithmic echo. You stop asking, is this true? You start asking, will this trend? When that switch flips, you are no longer a thinker. You are a marionette. You parrot phrases not from understanding, but from familiarity. Buzzwords, headlines, viral jargon. Your brain becomes an echo chamber, bouncing borrowed thoughts until your own voice sounds hollow. Ask an infected person, what does that actually mean? Watch panic flicker behind their eyes. The virus feasts here, where language replaces meaning and repetition masquerades as wisdom. This is the terminal stage. The mind becomes a fortress sealed by the delusion of omniscience. Questions cease. Certainty hardens. Dissent is mocked. Doubt is demonized. Curiosity crucified. Challenge them and they will not debate you. They will label you. At this precipice, dialogue dies. Only deprogramming remains. For the most dangerous person is not the skeptic, it is the zealot who never doubted. Now the question turns inward. Which of these symptoms live in you? Because the virus spreads, not through lies alone, but through comfort. And comfort is its camouflage. Evil knows its face. It slinks in shadows, it calculates, it conspires. Even monsters know their acts are wrong. But stupidity struts. It smiles, it clocks in punctually, it wears a uniform, it follows protocols, it believes it is righteous. That is its terror. Evil triggers resistance, a moral recoil, a gut scream. Stupidity disarms you. It does not torch buildings, it files paperwork. It is the policeman just doing his job, the bureaucrat rubber-stamping death warrants, the citizen applauding atrocity, not from hatred but from blindness. Bonhoeffer grasped this. Evil carries the seed of its own destruction. Against stupidity we are defenseless. Truth can expose evil. Guilt can stir conscience. But stupidity? It shrugs. It does not comprehend. It does not want to comprehend. It will annihilate everything around it while believing it saves the world. It will shriek lies louder as evidence mounts. Try to awaken it, and it laughs. Stupidity has no conscience, not from cruelty, but from sleep. This is why the infected can be kind, generous, even loving, and still catastrophic. The virus pilots their decency. Kindness in the grip of stupidity wreaks more havoc than malice ever could. This is not insult. It is diagnosis. Evil is a visible threat. Stupidity sits at your table. It shares your meals. It becomes you the instant you switch off your mind. By the time you notice, it is already smiling through your face. Once, stupidity crept slowly, village to village, generation to generation. Now it spreads at the speed of light. Stupidity has evolved. It is no longer human frailty, it is industrial-scale engineering. Welcome to the age of algorithmic ignorance. The new virus needs no propaganda ministries or firing squads. It runs on engagement metrics. It does not censor ideas. It drowns them. It floods your feed with amplified versions of your existing biases, louder, faster, angrier, until all you encounter is your own reflection screaming back. You believe you are informed, you are being conditioned to emote, not examine, to react, not reflect, to obey impulses, not interrogate assumptions. The grim truth? It works. Social platforms need not lie. They need only make truth less convenient than fiction. Stupidity requires no deception, just distraction. Consider. You click a rage-filled video. You watch it through. The algorithm smiles. It feeds you 10 more clones. It cares not for truth, only that you kept watching. The virus spreads via mathematics, not malice. Platforms optimize for addiction, not accuracy. What thrives? Certainty, outrage, simplistic narratives, the perfect ecosystem for stupidity. The longer you dwell in that echo chamber, the more you lose the ability to question what lies beyond. This is the modern mutation, stupidity disguised as activism, as conviction, as your own infallibility. But it is not you thinking, it is machines thinking for you, using your biases as fuel. Worse, these systems learn faster than we do. They adapt. They know your triggers. They know what keeps you scrolling, sharing, seething, all while you mistake reaction for insight. You are not informed. You are farmed, harvested for rage, harvested for fear, harvested for the narcotic of feeling right. This is no longer mere stupidity. It is engineered ignorance, machine-fed, self-reinforcing, precision-tuned for mass infection, and it conquers because the brightest minds are already colonized. Not from lack of intellect, but from outsourcing thought to algorithms. You never sense the war start because it feels like confusion, a fog settling over cognition. Heavy, familiar. It begins with a whisper. Why complicate things? Trust the experts. Everyone agrees. That is how it breaches your defenses, not with force, but with ease. First casualty, your curiosity. You cease asking why. Next, your doubt. You dodge uncomfortable questions, not because you resolve them, but but because they stir unease. The virus attacks not intelligence, but tolerance for uncertainty. Uncertainty demands humility, and the virus thrives on the promise of emotional comfort. Why grapple with truth when certainty soothes? So, piece by piece, your inner voice becomes an echo, not of reason, but of approval loops. You stop thinking for yourself. You start thinking for the tribe, for safety, for applause. You mistake this for growth, for confidence, for strength. It is neither. It is simulation, a facade of conviction masking the void where reflection lived. Here, the self-justification engine ignites. When doubt surfaces, your mind silences it. I researched that. That source is biased. It's conspiracy nonsense. Everyone agrees. I must be right. The more doubt you crush, the more righteous you feel. Righteousness is addictive. It erases nuance. It transmutes disagreement into heresy. It morphs differing views into existential threats. And at the precise moment you stop listening, stop tolerating doubt, stop challenging your beliefs, your mind becomes theirs. You speak their phrases, you chant their slogans, you react with their reflexes. Your voice remains, but the thoughts are ghosts. For the true war is not over facts. It is over your relationship to truth itself. Stupidity is not misinformation. It is malformed identity. It convinces you your beliefs are yourself, so relinquishing them feels like suicide. The virus knows this. It does not argue. It merges. It becomes you, until challenging it feels like self-betrayal. This is the infection's endgame. The thought parasite armors itself with your own ego. So the ultimate question is not, are you smart enough to resist? It is, are you brave enough to doubt yourself? This war is not waged in streets. It rages in silence, in solitude, in the abyss between a belief and the courage to question it. There comes a moment, cold, quiet, unannounced, when you realize you were never truly thinking. You were performing, pleasing, nodding. Not because you were stupid, but because the tribe you feared disappointing first defined truth for you, your peers, your algorithm, your comfort zone. This is the final trial. Most refuse it. They remain in gilded cages, decorated with tradition, guarded by guilt. But a few choose exile and return forever changed. This is your threshold. You are not a child. You need no permission to grow, to doubt, to speak, to leave, to think. You owe no allegiance to the altars of certainty and ease, for any truth demanding obedience is not truth. It is control. This is what Bonhoeffer witnessed, not in theory but in blood. He watched a nation implode, not from bombs, but from within. Minds traded for simplicity, belonging, false peace. He did not merely write, he resisted, he questioned, he defied, even unto death. On April 9, 1945, weeks before Hitler's fall, they hanged him. A pastor, a spy, a thinker. His final words, "This is the end. For me, the beginning of life." He spoke not of biology, he meant the life that ignites when the mind breaks its chains. When thought becomes sacred rebellion, that life is yours to claim. But know this. Thinking is no longer intellectual, it is psychological insurrection, spiritual defiance. In a world engineered to sedate you, to spoon-feed prefabricated thoughts, to punish discomfort and reward conformity, the simple act of pausing, doubting, and whispering, "I don't know," is revolution. The question is no longer abstract. It is visceral, urgent, yours. Will you guard your mind or surrender it? Smiling, nodding, scrolling, while mistaking captivity for freedom? If this unsettles you, good. That is where thought begins. Not in the warm bath of agreement, but in the friction of doubt. Bonhoeffer did not die for quotable platitudes. He died so we might wake, so we might question not only the world, but the mirrors within ourselves. If you have read this far, you are among the few, those who refuse to let their consciousness be colonized by noise. So act. Subscribe if you believe the unfettered mind is worth defending. Comment with one belief you dare to question this week. Share this with those unafraid of discomfort. For in the age of artificial stupidity, every independent thought is an act of sabotage against the machine. Stay sharp, stay awake. Never rent your mind for cheap applause. This is where minds refuse to be fed.